Enjoy our spine-chilling stories as you sleep, commute, or relax. If you're new, hit subscribe and share with friends and family. Let us know in the comments how we can improve. Our stories are best experienced with headphones on. Now, let's dive into today's tale.
Warning: the following stories contain elements of horror that explore themes of the supernatural, possession, psychological terror, and gruesome transformations. They are intended for mature audiences and may not be suitable for those sensitive to graphic imagery or themes of death, entrapment, and eternal damnation. Listener discretion is advised. Urban legends are reality. True horror stories. Story number 1. The Echoes of Alcatraz. The Echoes of Alcatraz, setting and date. Alcatraz Island, San Francisco, October 13, 1972. Once known as The Rock, Alcatraz had stood as a symbol of inescapable imprisonment until its closure in 1963. 9 years later, a team of paranormal investigators, drawn by tales of ghostly inmates and unexplained phenomena, decided to spend a night within its desolate walls. Among them was Sarah, a psychic medium known for her eerie accuracy, and her skeptical but supportive brother, David, alongside a tech-savvy investigator named Mark, and 2 seasoned investigators, Tom and Lisa. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the cell house, the team set up their equipment. Cameras, voice recorders, and thermometers were placed strategically around the notorious D Block, where the most dangerous prisoners were once held. Sarah began her session, her voice echoing eerily through the cold stone corridors. The temperature dropped sharply, and an unnatural chill swept through the room. Sarah's voice changed, deepening as if someone else was speaking through her. "They never left," she muttered, her eyes rolling back. The team's cameras captured sudden movements, shadowy figures darting through the bars, and the sound of distant, somber whistling, a tune supposedly sung by one of Alcatraz's most notorious inmates. Then, the first twist. Mark, who had been checking equipment in the old library, disappeared. His scream, sharp and filled with terror, echoed from the direction of the old solitary confinement cells. The team, flashlight beams cutting through the darkness, rushed towards the sound. Instead of finding Mark, they discovered an old sealed cell, its door welded shut from the outside. Inside, scratched into the wall, was a message: "Help us escape." David, driven by fear for his brother-in-law, attempted to break the door down, but it was unyielding. As they pondered their next move, the second twist unfurled. The door they had entered through was now sealed, the metal fused as if by heat, trapping them inside. Panic set in as they realized the spirits weren't just trying to communicate, they were ensuring no one left. The night grew darker, the only light coming from their dwindling flashlight batteries. Suddenly, Mark's voice was heard again, this time laughing maniacally from within the sealed cell, as if he had never left or had perhaps been turned by the spirits. The group huddled together, their breath visible in the cold air, as whispers filled the air, speaking of despair and eternal confinement. Desperate, they decided to use whatever resources they had to communicate back with the spirits, hoping to negotiate their freedom. Sarah, now back in control of her faculties, began another seance, this time with a more urgent plea. The spirits responded, their voices now coming from all around, whispering names of inmates, dates of deaths, and a chilling revelation: they needed living bodies to escape their eternal sentence. In an unexpected twist, a hidden passage opened near the warden's office, leading to an underground tunnel system, rumored but never confirmed. The team, with no other choice, ventured into this darkness, hoping for an exit. As they moved, the voices grew louder, more insistent, guiding them not towards escape, but deeper into the island's heart, where they stumbled upon a chamber filled with old artifacts from the prison's history, including personal effects of the inmates. The final twist came in this chamber. Mark was there, alive but different, his eyes vacant, his voice not his own. He spoke of a pact made with the spirits to let him live in exchange for leading others to this place. The spirits needed more than just their presence. They needed the investigators' lives to fuel their escape into the world. As the investigators realized this, they attempted to flee, but the tunnel began to collapse around them, an orchestrated move by the spirits to keep them there forever. In the last moments, as the earth caved in, the team heard the sound of the cell doors opening, the spirits finally free, but at what cost? The next morning, when the ferry came for the investigators, all that was found were their recording devices, still running, capturing the last screams of horror, the last whispers of the damned, and the chilling sound of laughter echoing from the very depths of Alcatraz Island. And now, story number 2, The Curse of the Black Forest. Setting and date: Black Forest, Germany, December 21st, 1989. The Black Forest, a region steeped in myth and mystery, was where a group of tourists, led by an overly adventurous guide named Klaus, decided to explore on the winter solstice. Their aim was to reach the Hexenbrunnen, the witch's well, deep within the forest, known from folklore as the site where the last witch of the area was said to have been drowned. The group, consisting of Klaus, his girlfriend Anna, and 4 friends, Michael, Julia, Peter, and Sarah, navigated the dense, whispering woods. The solstice brought an eerie, premature darkness to the forest. The trees seemed to lean in, their branches like skeletal fingers. As they neared the well, the air grew colder, the forest quieter, almost as if holding its breath. Near the Hexenbrunnen, they stumbled upon an ancient, leather-bound book hidden under a pile of leaves. Its cover was adorned with symbols none recognized, but Klaus, always one for a thrill, decided to read from it. Ignoring Anna's protests, he began to chant the archaic words, the language foreign yet compelling. The first twist came as the well began to overflow with black, tar-like water, from which spectral figures emerged, their bodies translucent, their eyes hollow. The tourists tried to flee, but the forest seemed to close in, branches grabbing at their clothes, roots tripping their feet. They ran in circles, always ending back at the well, their screams echoing into the night. In their panic, they noticed the book had changed. Where there were once spells for protection, now appeared curses, their ink bleeding fresh as if written moments ago. The second twist revealed itself when Peter disappeared, his scream cut short. The group, now down to 5, searched frantically, only to find his flashlight lying beside the book, now open to a page depicting a ritual for binding souls to the earth. They realized too late that each chant Klaus had uttered was not just an invocation, but a binding curse, sealing them within the forest. As they tried to reason with the situation, whispers filled the air, voices from long ago, speaking of vengeance and eternal night. The spirits, once bound by the witch's curse, now sought to bind others with them. Julia, in a moment of desperation, tried to burn the book, hoping to break the curse, but the fire barely touched it. Instead, it spread to the surrounding trees, creating an inferno that trapped them further, the flames dancing like the spirits of the damned. In a third twist, the spectral figures did not attack. Instead, they guided the group deeper into the forest, to an ancient circle of stones hidden by centuries of growth. Here they found Peter, alive but changed, his eyes reflecting the same hollow emptiness as the spirits. He spoke in a voice not his own, explaining that they were now part of the forest, their souls bound to protect it from those who would seek to disturb its peace. The group, now resigned to their fate, understood they would never leave the Black Forest. The spirits, in a final gesture of twisted mercy, offered them a chance to join them, to become guardians of the Hexenbrunnen, protecting it from future intruders. One by one, they approached the well, each reciting words from the book, binding themselves willingly or in despair. As dawn approached, the fire died down, revealing the group, now spectral forms themselves, standing guard over the Hexenbrunnen. Years later, on every winter solstice, locals whispered of strange lights and sounds from deep within the Black Forest, of laughter and cries that were neither human nor beast, a reminder of the tourists who vanished on that fateful night in 1989. But there was a final, chilling twist that folklore never captured. Every year, on the solstice, a new group of adventurers would be drawn to the forest, lured by tales of mystery, only to find themselves part of the eternal cycle of the Hexenbrunnen's guardians, their laughter mixing with the cries of the forest. And now, story number 3, Beneath the Catacombs of Paris. Setting and date: Paris Catacombs, France, June the 6th, 1995. Beneath the bustling city of Paris lies a network of tunnels known as the Catacombs, home to the bones of millions, a group of urban explorers, each with their own thrill-seeking motivations, decided to delve into the lesser-known sections of this labyrinth. Julian, obsessed with finding an apocryphal chamber said to house the remains of the last witch burned in Paris, led the expedition. His companions were Clara, a history enthusiast; Mark, an adrenaline junkie; Sophie, a photographer capturing the eerie beauty of the subterranean world; and Vincent, a skeptic who believed in nothing beyond what he could see. As they navigated through the tunnels, their path illuminated by flickering flashlights, the air grew heavy with the scent of decay and the whispers of centuries. They passed by walls lined with skulls and bones, each arrangement telling tales of the dead. Their journey led them to a sealed door hidden behind a wall of bones, covered in symbols that seemed both protective and ominous. Ignoring the warnings etched in the stone, Julian, with Mark's help, broke the door open, revealing a chamber unlike any in the catacombs. Instead of bones, the walls were stained with what looked like dried blood, and in the center stood an ancient coffin, its lid intricately carved with scenes of torture and damnation. The first twist came when the coffin opened by itself, revealing not a skeleton, but a woman, preserved as if in sleep. She was beautiful, yet terrifying, with long, dark hair and skin as pale as the bones surrounding her. Her eyes, when they opened, were black as night. She spoke in a language none recognized, yet they all understood her curse. The explorers tried to escape, but the catacombs twisted around them, leading them back to the chamber each time they thought they found an exit. As they huddled in fear, the second twist unfolded. The witch, who they learned was called Agathe, had been waiting for someone to unseal her tomb. She needed fresh souls to regain her power, lost when she was buried alive centuries ago. One by one, they fell to her dark magic. Mark, always the first to explore, was the first to be taken, his screams echoing through the tunnels, his body contorting in unnatural ways before collapsing, lifeless. Sophie, trying to document their horror, found her camera capturing only shadows and darkness. No matter where she pointed it, her final photos were of their own terrified faces, the last light fading from their eyes. Clara, driven by her knowledge of history, attempted to reason with Agatha, reciting ancient counterspells she knew from her studies, but her words only seemed to amuse the witch, who responded by whispering secrets of forgotten dark arts, corrupting Clara's knowledge. Vincent, the skeptic, refused to believe in magic, even as it consumed him. He tried to find a logical explanation, a way out, but found himself trapped in a loop of his own disbelief, his mind unraveling as reality and illusion blurred. The third twist was the most chilling. Agathe wasn't just seeking to escape. She was binding their souls to her, creating an eternal guard for her tomb. Julien, in a desperate act, attempted to reseal the door, believing it might trap Agathe once more. But as he did, the bones from the walls came alive, reshaping themselves into grotesque figures that dragged him back to Agatha's side. In their final moments, the group realized they were not just victims, but were being transformed into something between life and death, bound to the catacombs forever. Agatha, now revitalized by their energy, sealed herself back into her tomb, leaving behind only their echoes and the chilling realization that anyone who dared to disturb her rest would join them in endless guardianship. Years later, occasional explorers would report hearing whispers or feeling a cold breath on their necks in the deepest parts of the catacombs. They would leave quickly, spreading tales of the witch of the catacombs, their stories adding to the lore of Paris's dark underbelly, ensuring Agathe's legacy would continue to haunt the living. And now, story number 4, The Lake of Shadows. Setting and date: Lake Lanier, Georgia, USA, August 15th, 2004. Lake Lanier, known for its eerie history of drownings and the submerged town of Oscarville, was the chosen spot for a summer camp reunion. Friends from childhood, now scattered across the country, had gathered at a lakeside cabin to reminisce about their youthful adventures. There was Amy, the daring leader, Jake, the prankster, Emily, the storyteller with a love for local legends, Brian, the skeptic, and Laura, who had always been sensitive to the peculiar energies of places. The reunion was filled with laughter and nostalgia until Jake suggested a night swim, ignoring the lake's grim reputation. The water looked inviting under the moonlight, despite the stories of the lake's dark depths. They dove in, enjoying the cool water, unaware of the history beneath their feet. The first twist came when Amy disappeared beneath the surface, pulled down by unseen forces. The group panicked, diving and searching, but there was no sign of her. They returned to the cabin, shaken, only to find Amy soaking wet in her bed, her eyes wide open, lifeless, but with a smile, as if she had seen something beautiful. Emily, with her knowledge of local lore, whispered about the spirits of Oscarville, particularly of a young girl who drowned in the very spot where Amy had vanished. She believed Amy's smile was not one of peace but of possession, by the spectral child. The cabin suddenly felt colder, the atmosphere heavier with an unseen presence. The second twist unfolded as the night progressed. Each time someone looked away from Amy, she moved, now standing, now sitting, always with that eerie smile. Jake, trying to shake off the fear with humor, suggested they were all just overtired and seeing things. But when he tried to touch Amy, his hand passed through her, confirming the worst. She was a ghost, or perhaps something controlling her body. Brian, ever the skeptic, decided they needed proof, setting up cameras around the cabin. The footage later showed not just Amy moving, but figures in the water, emerging and then vanishing into the lake. The images were chilling, showing not just one, but many spectral forms. As the night wore on, the lake began to call out to them, a siren song heard only in their minds, compelling them to return to the water. Laura, sensitive to the supernatural, resisted the longest, but even she could feel the pull, the whispers promising reunion with Amy, with peace, or perhaps eternal rest beneath the waves. In a desperate act to break the spell, Emily recited an old protective chant she had learned from her grandmother, hoping to ward off the spirits. But the chant only seemed to enrage the entities, causing the water to churn violently, the lake's surface breaking with spectral hands reaching out. The third twist came when Jake, believing he could save Amy by confronting whatever was controlling her, jumped back into the lake. His screams were cut short, and when he resurfaced, he too wore that same serene yet terrifying smile. Now, there were two of them, beckoning the others to join them in the water, their eyes reflecting the darkness of the lake. Laura, in a moment of clarity, realized they were being drawn into a cycle, each new spirit adding to the lake's malevolent force. She attempted to flee, but the cabin door wouldn't budge, the windows showing only darkness outside, as if the world had vanished. As dawn approached, they found a way out through an old, forgotten path, but not before seeing the lake's water rise, flooding the cabin floor with dark, murky water. They escaped, but the lake had left its mark on them. Years later, tales circulated about a cabin by Lake Lanier, where laughter turned to screams, where the water seemed to call your name if you were foolish enough to swim at night. And on certain nights, under the right moon, you could see figures walking on water, smiling with an invitation that promised peace, but delivered only an eternal embrace with the shadows of the lake.
If you're new, hit subscribe and share with friends and family. Let us know in the comments how we can improve.